For the longest time, if you were looking for a sports sedan, there's really only one option to look at, in my opinion, the BMW 3 Series. Over the years, Mercedes have caught up with the C-Class, and then there's the Audi A4. But now, I think there's a new serious contender, and it's this. The Volvo S60 T8 R-Design. It's got a combined 407 horsepower and 640 Nm of torque from a 2-litre turbocharged, supercharged engine driving the front wheels and an electric motor powering the rear too. Managing all this performance is an 8-speed automatic wedged in between. But it's not all about power. To be seen in the same light as the German heavyweights, there are a few questions to ask. So Volvo says this car will do 0 to 100 in 4.4 seconds. That's as fast as the BMW M2 and a second and a half faster than its closest rivals, the BMW X3 and the Mercedes-Benz C300. But I'm curious, after reading all the reviews about this car online, after multiple tries, none of them have been able to get close to the 4.4 second mark. So I've brought the car to just the right place to find out. Just to be clear, I've not exactly prepped the car, except for making sure that the tyre pressures are correct. Battery is 3/4 full, fuel tank is half full. But hey, I guess that's real world testing, right? So all I'm gonna do is put it into sports and let's go.
Stand by, 3, 2, 1, go!
Holy crap, this is quick. That's 100. So just to see which drive mode works best to bring out the most performance out of the car, the first run I did it in sports mode, the second and third run I'm going to do it in hybrid mode and constant all-wheel drive mode. So let's see.
3, 2, 1, go!
Whoa, so in hybrid mode you feel the electric power kicking in first, and then the car just goes. Whoa. I may be wrong about this, but it does feel a tad faster off the line in hybrid mode.
Okay, handbrake off. Stand by. 3, 2, 1, roll!
Just doesn't feel as quick in all-wheel drive mode. It's quite similar to the sports mode as well. So we've established it's a fast saloon. But you're not going to be speeding around in this all the time. What about when you're crawling in traffic, parking in front of a mall? Which brings me to the next question. Most people who buy Volvos tend to like them looking discreet, but that's only a minority group of people. Impressions are everything these days, and no car company is going to say we don't want to sell more cars. So to appeal to a wider audience like BMW and Mercedes-Benz has, the S60 needs to look expensive. Everywhere it arrives, it needs to show up with a bit of charm, a certain kind of swagger. This one, with the R-Design trims and the Fusion red paint job, just ticks all the boxes. That rear end is simply one of the prettiest I've ever seen in any Volvo. That 3/4 view is simply irresistible. The front end is not just a scaled down version of the S90 R-Design. The headlamp design is completely different, and so is the front bumper. The front grille, although quite large, is not ugly. Overall, with the R-Design package, I think it's got the right amount of shiny bits, silver and gloss black trims, along with those 19-inch wheels. Just enough wow factor to stand out without trying too hard. Park this right next to its closest rivals, and sure, it may not look as aggressive as the 330i M Sport or the C300 AMG line, but in terms of grabbing attention, I don't think the S60 will lose out. So far, everyone I've met and picked up in this car have said that it looks good. It's been quite a head turner, and sentiment so far has been quite positive. So yeah, I guess you can say it looks quite premium, although I hate that word. It's so overused these days. The word premium doesn't even sound premium anymore. But anyways, at 295,000 ringgit, it can't just be all style, no substance. So my next question is, to the touch, I must say, yes, you get soft Napa leather with a mix of fabrics on these seats. Now, Volvo makes some of the most comfortable car seats in the business at the moment, and in this car, it's no exception. I particularly like this silver polished metal strip that runs across the entire dashboard. Everything feels modern, futuristic, and quite well put together.
There's a panoramic sunroof, this big 9-inch touchscreen display with a superb 14-speaker Harman Kardon sound system, Apple CarPlay, Android Auto, and even a head-up display. So in terms of equipment and features, it's got pretty much everything you'd expect in a 300,000 ringgit car.
But there are a few things that caught my attention, like the displays on this 12-inch digital instrument cluster, for example. Simple, effective displays, but a little underwhelming. And what is up with that lag upon startup? That does not belong in a 300,000 ringgit car. And considering this is the sportier, more aggressive, more exciting R-Design, even in sport mode, the display doesn't seem to induce a lot of excitement.
The lack of electric adjustments for the steering doesn't feel very premium as well. And like I said earlier, while it may feel premium to the touch, to the eyes, the sight, I think overall it's all a bit subdued, a bit cold. It's there, but not quite.
I think the kind of people that this car is targeting needs to be wowed the moment they step inside here. But from where I'm sitting, it's just lacking a tad bit still. I know what you're thinking, some people might like this look. But like I said earlier, car companies don't want to sell cars to just some people. It's sad, but impressions are everything to the wider audience these days, and this brings me to my next question.
Whether it's a shouty interior or a subdued one, a car that's not practical is a massive turn-off.
Let's first start with the boot. It's got just under 400 litres of boot space, around 390 litres, just a tad more compared to its rival, the 330e, at around 375 litres. Now, while these figures may not sound like much, considering a car this segment, a PHEV no less, I think it's not bad actually. Now, in the last few days, I've been in the midst of moving to a new house, so I've decided to leave some of the boxes in there just for you to get a perspective, an idea of just how much cargo it can gobble up. And from the looks of it, quite a fair bit.
Also, because this is a plug-in hybrid, the spare tyre has been sacrificed in place of the batteries. I don't know what you guys think, but for me, no matter what, I'll always feel more secure with a spare tyre.
Moving inside, access, I must say, is quite generous, whether in the front or back. Easy in, easy out. Once inside, you notice just how much space there is in terms of legroom and knee room. Although I must say, headroom is a little limited. Call me crazy, but I think it's almost as spacious as the 5 Series. I stand corrected on that, but I think even if there is a difference, it's not a big one. At the front, this is what bothers me, and it's the armrest storage. There's barely any room for anything. It's so shallow, so tight, like GC Mars jeans. If anything, I feel like the entire cabin could do with a bit more storage, both on the door panels and of course in the armrest storage. I think Volvo has a thing or two to learn from IKEA. And the last bit could just be me, because even after adjusting the seat slightly higher up, when I want to reach my hand out to collect a parking ticket or to tap my card on the touch and go lane, I still find the access to be a bit obstructive. It feels a bit claustrophobic because the windows are slightly smaller, especially when I'm driving around parking lots trying to park the car. Luckily, there's a 360-degree cam. That has made parking so much easier. And this could just be me nitpicking, but having gone through so many different Volvos, I still find this tablet to be quite inconvenient to use. It's straightforward in certain ways, but it's still not as user-friendly as I think Volvo expects it to be. Half the time I have to lay my eyes off the road to just control the aircon settings, and I find that to be a bit distracting. So I guess it's common knowledge now that PHEVs need to be constantly charged for it to perform to its full potential. Now I live in a condo where the parking lot does not come with power points, and I haven't exactly been in the office a lot in the last few days I've had this car. So what's it like then, driving this car with little to no charge all the time? Well, when the batteries indicate that they're empty, they're not exactly empty. I've still had some electric assistance driving out of the condo, setting off from the traffic light, or even coming out of the junction before the engine kicks in.
Good enough considering those are the moments when the car consumes the most fuel. So having electricity instead to give the car some momentum before the engine comes alive does help. Volvo claims that a full charge can offer up to 40 kilometers of electric driving range, but really, if you factor in real-world circumstances and conditions, it's probably only half that.
Now, I've only been able to properly charge the car once in the last few days that I've had it, and after 3 hours of charging, battery capacity was actually 3/4 full. That was more than enough to get me home from the office, from PJ to Bangsar South, and back to the office the next day, purely on electric power. But really, those were actually short distances and traffic condition was rather smooth.
And you do need to charge it every chance you get, because relying on the car to charge on its own in hybrid mode was a little futile. Charging rate was just too slow. There is, however, another option. This charge function here that makes the engine charge the batteries at a quicker rate while you're on the go.
And then you'd ask, huh? Isn't that counterproductive? Yes and no, I guess. With the function on, the car does get more thirsty, but not by much. The charging rate, however, gets a whole lot quicker. If you're driving, say, from PJ to Subang, you would have got the batteries charged up to half full. So it's really a balancing act. So when I'm cruising along the highways, I'll switch it on, charge the batteries. When I'm driving around commercial or housing areas, I'll switch it off and run intervally on electric and petrol. So yeah, for a PHEV to be fully utilized, it needs to be constantly plugged in. But really, do you think someone who can spend 300,000 ringgit on a car, their priorities would be to save fuel or even the environment?
Volvo also claimed that this car can do 2 litres per 100 kilometers, which is just not possible in the real world. But so far, fuel consumption hasn't exactly been bad either. With my last fuel tank, I've been able to clock over 500 kilometers with a fuel consumption rating of 10 litres per 100 kilometers. I've driven it hard, I've driven it conservatively, on highways, in super urban areas. All things considered, not bad.
But really, a Passat or a 520i, for example, would achieve those figures without this juggling act, which makes me question the existence of PHEVs, not just by Volvo but by everyone else. Firstly, you're carrying batteries, and that makes the car heavier, and a heavy car is generally not as fuel economical. So to counter that, you gotta constantly charge it, either by scrambling for a plug point or essentially using fuel to get electricity. Isn't that what we're trying to reduce? That's like a solution to a problem that should have never existed. For a car this heavy, and this one weighs about 2 tons, it just picks up and goes. And when you're going around the bends, the stability of this thing is just remarkable. You still feel the lump when you're chucking it about aggressively, but it still manages its weight quite well. And I can't help but feel that all this weight has something to do with how secure I feel sitting inside here.
Even the non-plug-in hybrid models without the batteries weigh something like 1.7 tons. That's heavy when you realize that the BMW X3 weighs 300 kilograms less.
I feel like I'm cocooned inside a rock, safe, assured. In fact, all Volvos have made me feel this way. And when you're cruising along the highways, it's quiet as well, and the suspension absorbs the bumps quite well. While it may not be as taut as the new 330e I got to drive in Germany last year, it's definitely got its own brand of refinement and driving dynamics. It's a good brand.
I guess that's what Volvos are all about, isn't it? You want power? I can give you power, but I'm not about that. I'll do things my way. It seems to me that priority isn't about being flashy or bombastic, but instead, assurance on the road is key.
Because aside from this robust shell, you also get a whole lot of safety features, probably the most comprehensive and sophisticated you can find in a car. There's also this Pro Pilot function which I enjoy switching on while I'm crawling in traffic. Not something to fully rely on entirely, but definitely takes the edge off, makes me feel less tense knowing that there's an extra safety net there.
So it's got everything then. Modern features, great performance, and good looks. But in terms of value for money, there's one other thing that stands out.
Volvo very boldly announced that by 2020, no one should be killed or even seriously injured in their cars. Wow. It's not tangible for you to see or use, but I think it's an assurance, in a way a feature to the car that you just can't put a price on, especially when your kids are at the back. So as for the final question, is this car for you? If you're looking to spend 300,000 ringgit on a sedan and your priority is to get the most out of your money in terms of performance, safety, features, comfort and all that, then there's probably nothing that comes close to this S60 T8. But if you're looking for an SUV, just like everybody else these days, good news, there are loads of options. You have the Lexus NX, the BMW X3, the GLC 200, the Volvo XC60 T5 even. All fantastic options in their own right. For more information on the new Volvo S60 T8 R-Design, do log on to AutoBuzz.my. If you enjoyed the video, hit the like button, share it, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Also, don't forget to hit the bell icon for the latest notifications on our newest videos.
3, 2, 1, go! And again, go! Okay, come again.
It's just... the dirt from all the sweat all on my shirt already.